Hello everyone. Today we will be reviewing expository writing for CSEC English A, but in this video we'll be focusing our attention on reports and notices. So let's get into the presentation. All right, so CSEC English A expository writing, reports and notices. Now, in the previous video, we would have reviewed letters and emails, but we are going to look at two additional forms of expository writing, which are reports and notices. And of course, I have to give credit to Bing Images for being the source from which I obtained this photo. So how do reports and notices differ from letters and emails? So let's see. But first of all, what is a report? So a report is an account given of a particular event, usually as the result of observation. So this account can be written or it can be spoken. But the last part is very important, as the result of observation. Therefore, a report would be a description of something that happened, right? So this is what it said as a result of observation, because you're going to give an account or description of something that has already happened, right? So examples of reports, and this is going into point 2, would be, let's say you witnessed something, a car accident, for example, and you had to give a report to, I don't know, the police officer or someone. Your report will consist of a description, a detailed description of what took place. Okay? All the specifics. So this is why the definition specified as a result of observation. Right? So there are many different types of reports, some of which include eyewitness and statistical, right? So of course, eyewitness would be if you that's just like the example that I gave with the car accident, if having to report what you saw. But the thing about it is that you're not going to report this from the first person point of view. Reports are written in the third person and the past tense, because of course you're talking about something that happened, right? So yeah, they have to be written in the third person and the past tense. Now, in this sense, reports are going to be similar to letters, because you're usually going to be given so they're usually going to be given an address, or not necessarily an address, but information about the recipient, and you have to format it like an address. So the first part of the report will look like a letter, right? And I'm going to show you what I mean shortly, right? So it should have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, along with an appropriate salutation and closing. You see, almost sounds like a letter, right? But I'm going to show you an example, so don't worry. The introduction will state brief details as it relates to the specific incident. The what, those involved, which is who, the time, when, and the location where. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the W's, the 4 W's. No, this is what is being referenced when we are talking about the 4 W's in the introduction. So these 4 W's represent the brief details regarding brief details that will be mentioned at the beginning of the report, so that the reader can become a bit familiar with what is happening. Of course, in the body, you will expand on these details, but you still need some sort of introductory details, right? So the what will be the specific incident. Those involved would be the who, the time, when, and the location where. So these are details that are necessary within your introduction, right? As I said, the body will expand on the details. So this is where you're going to explain and expand on what you would have presented in the introduction. And I say be as detailed as possible. So they're going to give you all the details that you need. But this is the section where you are going to be as detailed as possible. Okay? Right? So yes. And the conclusion will mention the outcome. So the outcome will just be what happened in the end, or how did the situation, what was the resolution, or what happened in the end, basically. That's what we would say is the outcome. Now, let's actually see an example of a report, right? So study the situation presented below and then complete the task that follows. So your Form 5 class of St. John's High School located at Aston Bay, St. John, was carrying out an experiment in the science laboratory in the period before lunch on 30th of April 2019. Your teacher, Mr. Daly, had to leave the room to meet a parent at the office. Two students, Mary St. Rose and Andrew Campbell, rolled up sheets of paper around a ball and began to throw it at each other. Mary threw the ball and Andrew did not catch it. The ball hit a set of beakers on one of the desks next to them. The beakers fell and broke. When Mr. Daly returned to the science laboratory, he inquired about the cause of the incident, but no one responded. Mr. Daly then asked that the area be cleaned, and he informed the students that their parents would be contacted to pay for the broken beakers. After the class, he reported the matter to the school's principal, Mr. John Clark, who asked the class prefect to write a report of the incident to be submitted to him. Imagine you are the class prefect. Write the report to the principal. Right. So you see right here that you have a recipient. So this is why you have to use addresses when it comes to the report, because you're going to have to write this report to someone or address this report to someone, right? So you see, they give you all the details. Now you have to take these details and structure it accordingly. So remember, in our report, in our introduction, we're going to be mentioning the W's, the who, the what, the where, the who, the when, and the where. So those details are going to be very important in our introduction. In our body, we're going to expand and explain the situation. And in our conclusion, we are going to mention the outcome. All right? Now let's go. So we start with our addresses. The address of the sender, which would be my address. But you don't give the address of your home address. Not really. You don't have to do that. You can put the school's address again as your student of the school. The date, 1st of May 2019. I chose this date because if the incident occurred on the 30th of April 2019, then it has to be any time after that. So I just chose like the day after, which is the 1st of May, right? And of course, with letter format, you know, when it comes to the addresses, you have to put the name of the recipient, their designation, and then the address, and then the name of the organization, followed by the address. So, right. So this you should already know because we did this previously, right? So we have our salutation there, Mr. Clark. Now we have a title here. So our title is going to be Report on Incident in the Science Laboratory. And we have it on the line. and we put it in the center. So this is our title, Report on Incident in the Science Laboratory. So let's begin with our introduction. An incident occurred in the science laboratory on April 30th, 2019 in the period before lunch. So that first line, we get the what? An incident. We get the when on April 30th and in the period before lunch because that's still time, right? And we get the where as well because it says science laboratory. So we get 3 W's within that first line. 2 Form 5 students by the names of Mary St. Rose and Andrew Campbell began to play around with a ball and ended up breaking a set of beakers. We get the who. So who were the persons involved? Mary St. Rose and Andrew Campbell. So we have all our W's, all our brief details that we need in the introduction. Unfortunately, none of the students wanted to reveal what had happened when Mr. Daly inquired about the broken beakers. So that's our introduction. The principal, obviously, because he's the one who's going to read this report, he gets all the brief details he needs from the introduction. Now, in the body, we are going to explain what really happened, right? But he has all the brief information that he needs to be aware of what's going on, right? Or what took place, okay? All right. So an experiment was being carried out when Mr. Daly had to leave the class for a short period of time to meet a parent at the office. As soon as he left, they rolled up sheets of paper around a ball and began to throw it at each other. At one particular time, Mary threw the ball at Andrew, but he was unable to catch it. The ball hit some beakers that were next to them on a desk, causing them to fall and break. Right, so you see, I explained the situation, the incident, how it happened, right? So this is what the body will do when it comes to a report. It will explain how the event took place or how it unfolded, right? All right, so let's go to our conclusion now. When Mr. Daly returned to the class and saw the broken beakers, he inquired about what had taken place, but no one responded. As a result, he ordered some students to clean up the remains and told the class that parents would be contacted to pay for the broken beakers. After the class, he reported the incident. So you see in the conclusion, we mention what was the outcome of the situation. So in the body, we described how the actual incident took place, right? The specifics of the incident. And then in our conclusion, we mentioned what was the outcome, right? So the outcome was that when he returned to the class, as no one wanted to respond to his query, he ordered the students to clean up the remains and then told them that the parents would have to pay for the broken beakers. And then he would have reported the incident to the principal, right? So we are able to see what happened in the end, right? And of course, you have to have an appropriate closing. Sincerely, you write your name and then you write your designation. You're the farm prefect, right? So sincerely, Christopher Hurdle, farm prefect. So that's very, very similar to a letter, right? Yeah, you can almost consider it a letter because you have to have the addresses of the sender and receiver, as well as appropriate salutations and closings, right? So this would be report writing. And this is, of course, an example of an eyewitness report, right? So now we're going to move on to notice writing, and I forgot to mention this, and I didn't mention this in the previous expository writing video, but there's no word limit for this section. And it kind of makes sense because there's only a certain amount that you can write based on the situation you're given. There's only so much you can write, right? So yeah, that's just a by the way. So notices. What is a notice? A notice is a written announcement in a place where it can be read by everyone. Of course, if you are at a school or workplace, I'm sure you've seen notices before, or even in the community, there are notices. Anytime you see a message that is displayed on a platform that everyone can see it, then chances are that's a notice. So I'm sure you've seen a notice before, right? So just like letters, no, sorry, just like reports, the third person is going to be used for notices, right? Notices are going to be very short. Sometimes only one paragraph in length, okay? So yeah, but let's see how notices are formatted. So of course, here's a situation. You're the outgoing president of your school's students' council. Elections for a new executive are scheduled for Friday, 25th of June 2020 at 10 a.m. at your school's auditorium. The following positions on the executive will be available: President, Vice President, Treasurer, Secretary, Public Relations Officer. Students need to be informed that the president of the Students' Council must be a fifth form student. Further, students must vote for a candidate for every position available. Write a notice that will be placed on the students' notice board. And of course, you are given details on how you will be assessed. Right. So make sure to include all the relevant details in the notice so that students will be fully informed of the elections. So you have all your information there. So it says that you're the outgoing president of the school students council. So how notices work is that you place the body or the entity of the who writes the notice, right? You put them in bold, not in bold, rather in caps at the top of the page, right? So since the scenarios about a school students, what is it? A students council, right? So I gave a name of a school. Queen's College is actually the name of a school in Barbados, but yeah, you could use any name of a school, right? Queen's College Students Council, and you have the words notice underneath. Big and bold, like how we have it here, notice. Then we go on the left-hand corner, to the left-hand corner, and we put the date. It says that the elections will be on the 25th of June. So I would think that this notice would need to be written before the actual event, right? So I put it like 3 weeks prior, right? It would obviously have to be written before the actual elections. So I chose the 5th of June, 2020. And then, of course, we have our subject, which is elections. So this is how we would format it. Now, let's get into the actual notice. So the Queen's College Students' Council wishes to inform all students that elections for our new executive will be held on Friday, June 25th at 10 a.m. Okay? In the school auditorium. The following positions will be available: President, Vice President, Treasurer, Secretary, and Public Relations Officer. So just like the previous video with the email, when the information is listed to you as bullet points, you do not replicate that. You put it in a way that you include all the information, but you do not use bullet points. So you see how I did it? The following positions will be available, colon, and then I list them. I didn't put, okay, the following positions will be available, and then just put bullet points. No, don't do that. Right? All right. In addition, the new president of the Students' Council must be a fifth form student, and students must vote for a candidate for each position available. Right, so that's information that they included at the end, right? Where they said that a fifth form student must be the new president, right? And students must vote for a candidate for each position available. So that's all the information that they give you. Don't need to include anything more. All right. You place your signature, then you put your name, and then you put your designation. So this is you are the outgoing president. So you're writing this notice on behalf of the Queen's College Students' Council, of course, who are representing that entity, and you would put outgoing president, right? All right. So this is the structure of a notice, and this would be placed on the school's notice board, wherever that would be, but it will be placed somewhere where everyone can see it. That's the point of the notice, right? So this is the structure. You start with the body, not the body, the entity who is the entity who's responsible for the notice. You underneath that you put the word in caps notice. Then you have the date in the left hand corner. Then you put the subject, and you put it in the center, and then you begin to write your notice, including all the information that the scenario requires. You sign, you write your name, and then you write your designation. And that's it. And that would be it for notices. All right, so this brings us to the end of expository writing, and this lesson, of course. I hope that it was helpful. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.